Welcome back to our Deconstructing Dembski series. In this episode, what we'll be doing is we'll be discussing Chapter 1 of Dembski's book, The Design Inference, and we'll cover pretty much all of the chapter except for the last section. Now, Dembski is nothing if not really great at coming up with illustrative examples to give here. This is actually a very cool example. Reported in New York Times. Nicholas Caputo was a county clerk. Now, the job of a county clerk is one of the things that they do is they put together the ballots for elections. I'm sure you remember the swinging chads and the butterfly ballots and all this other kind of stuff. Putting together ballots is actually it's more difficult than what it looks. But his job basically was to decide whether to put the Republican or the Democrat candidate for office on the top of the ballot. Now, it is well known that whoever is at the top of the ballot gets a slight advantage. People who are undecided will tend to vote in favor for whoever is on top. And he was called the man with the golden arm. And he was a Democrat, and he quote-unquote randomly chose to put the Democrats on the top 40 out of 41 times. So, say he used a coin toss to determine which one was on top. It's like, flipping heads 40 out of 41 times of your coin toss. Coin toss isn't exactly how it did it, or claimed to do it, but that's essentially the idea. Now, as we've seen in homework number 1, okay, this sequence is no more or no less probable than any other sequence. I mean, he eventually was taken to court for this. But when he was tried at court, nobody could prove anything that he did was wrong. I mean, it's like, some sequence has to come up. And this one is just no more or less probable than any other sequence. So, but I'm sure you're scratching your head at this point. I mean, do you really think that Caputo did nothing wrong here? I mean, let's get real now, okay? Yeah, that string is no more or less probable than any other string. But what is it? It's not really so easy to say exactly what it is, though, right? So let's consider some attempts at specifying what exactly is going on here, all right? All right, first attempt by Charles Sanders Peirce. He's actually been called the smartest person who America has ever produced, and I would have to agree with that. He was just pretty damn smart. So he had a proposal. He says you can't really, after the fact, say that any pattern is fishy, right? What you have to do is you have to specify before the fact what happens, right? So, for example, say a person is shooting arrows at the side of a barn. Okay, so say this is the side of a barn. I'm not really that great at art, so bear with me, right? So somebody shoots an arrow in, and then after the arrow is shot, they paint a target and say, "Ha! Look, I hit the exact center of the target. Ha ha! Aren't I good?" Right? I mean, this is just not going to cut it, right? What you got to first do is you first got to paint the target, and then you shoot the arrow. So, for example, in the Caputo case, one thing you might be able to do is say is like, well, after 40 or 50 ballots that you put together, you really should show a roughly equal number of Democrats first versus Republicans first. Something like this, right? And that would be one way to rule out these fishy sequences that are there. Okay? So this is good as far as it goes. But, Dembski has very high ambitions here, right? Okay? This is great for things we can specify in advance. But we're talking about the origin of life, the universe, and everything. I mean, Dembski wants to use this stuff for purposes of, saying that the universe was intelligently designed or that life was intelligently designed. So we can hardly specify in advance what kind of universe we'd expect, right? First, we're not there before the universe was. We are definitely after the fact in terms of the origin of life and in terms of the origin of the universe, right? So we can't really use Peirce's idea unmodified as it is, right? So what are we going to do? Is there really no way? I mean, there's something fishy about this. So Dembski actually ventures a solution here, right? And he has a very interesting name for it. He calls it detachability. Yes. So basically what he's saying is this sequence that Caputo did exhibits a very marked pattern, right? And he is trying to describe certain patterns that are called detachable. So, and what he doesn't really define. I mean, the rest of this book is what basically he spends defining this concept of detachability. But in general terms and informal terms, basically what it is is you'd like to be able to, if you can formulate this pattern, if you can say what the pattern is going to look kind of like before it happens, if you had no event, no knowledge of actually what happened, then the pattern is detachable. Yeah, I know this is very, very fuzzy, but like I said, it's like the whole rest of the book he's trying to actually make this fuzzy definition kind of sharpen it up, right? So if you want to sharpen this fuzzy definition up, then there's several questions you've got to make very precise. First question is, of course, what is a pattern? I mean, what does this mean that by pattern? What constitutes a pattern? What kind of a thing is a pattern? And how can we specify a pattern, right? And how could we know in advance that we could not specify a pattern, right? How could we possibly, say that, we couldn't specify a certain pattern of tartan or something like this? I don't know, right? So these are the kind of questions that actually have to be sharpened up, okay? Now, Dembski spends the rest of his book trying to sharpen these guys up. But really the best answer to these sorts of questions that I've seen so far comes from a field known as Kolmogorov complexity. And here's the problem, right? Kolmogorov complexity is not just hard to learn, it's damn hard to learn. Okay, and there's really no way out. You have to know some computer programming in order to do it. So what I'm going to do is the next section, I'm going to introduce a computer programming language to it, and over the next couple of videos, I'll give a brief tutorial on how to do some very, very basic computer programming, just enough to get you into this, right? So basically what I want to do is I want you to have a very good feeling for what this Kolmogorov complexity is. I want you to have a intuitive grasp. I want you to be able to feel in your bones exactly what Kolmogorov complexity is and be very confident in being able to apply it.